Okay, now week 7. And this week, in this chapter, in cin2003, we will discuss about accounts and groups. Last time we talked about OUs. And we said OU is a logical container. We can nest OUs together. We call it OU nesting. And OU inside an OU. Accounts and group, very important chapter. In this chapter, we are going to discuss these topics, working with groups, nesting groups, special identities, deleting a group. Why we need to do groups? ليش man, just we create users and that's it.
That the user have the same permission of share files resources together.
Easy for administration, صح? I can put similar users in one department, in one group, but then I can assign permission to the whole group instead of going to each one and assign. You understand what I'm saying, right? صح? That's one of the, I want to give you permission to the color printer. Instead of going to each user, if you are all in one group, I can then assign it one time. Okay. So you look here, we have assign permissions once for the group instead of assigning permission to each user. So groups are collections of user accounts. Members receive permissions given to groups. Users can be members of multiple groups. You can be member of, let's say, this group and member of another group, no problem. صح؟ ممكن أنت تكون member مثلا of IT club and then member of another club, no problem. We have two main types of groups. We have distribution groups and we have security groups. Security groups are security-related groups created for purposes of granting resources, access, permissions to multiple users. يعني زي هون. Okay, assign permission, access. The second group, which is distribution, this is non-security. They are created for the distribution of information to one or more persons. So in the lab, we will be mainly working with security groups most of the time. Group scopes يعني what they cover, where are they? Scope يعني ايش؟ مجال او range. مجال. It controls which objects the group can contain, limits the objects to the same domain, or permits objects from remote domains. This is all done by the scope. It controls the location in the domain or forest where the group is used or can be used. We have these scopes: domain local group, global group, and universal groups. Very important to know this. Okay. Domain local group, global group, universal group. We will talk about each group. Domain local group, these are characteristics of the domain local. Please read it. Read it, please. You need to know it. They are different from each other in the sense of who can become member of this group. What is the scope? This is according to the scope. So for the DLG group, DLG and domain local group, it can have members from user accounts, computer accounts, global groups from any domain in the forest, universal groups also, and domain local groups from the same domain. Okay, tamam. Okay. Very important, please. Domain local group can have user accounts, computer accounts, global groups from the forest, Universal groups, domain local group from the same domain. Very good question. And usually they will ask you 4 maybe, or 3, maybe 5, but usually they will ask 4 out of 5. Okay. The global groups. So we talked about domain local group. Then global group is what? They can have user accounts, computer accounts, and other global groups from the same domain. User accounts, computer accounts also, and other global groups from the same domain, not the forest. هاي أصغر ها. Universal groups, they can have users, computers, global groups from any domain in the forest, or other universal groups. Yes.
لو شخص ما عنده يوزر ما عنده جروب يكون اليونيفرسال
ما عنده يوزر خلاص.
لا ما عنده جروب في يوزر بس ما في جروب.
لا, you need to assign him to a group. He is member of users OU only. You need to create a group. Create a group, not OU. I'm talking about groups now. Default groups. كيف أول أخذنا default entities, now we have something called default groups. Several built-in security groups are created when you install Active Directory. Many of the built-in groups have predefined user rights that enable their members to perform certain system-related tasks, such as backup, restore. Okay? Add accounts to these default groups to grant users the same rights, in addition to any resource access permissions to the group process. يعني مثلا, I have a default group called, let's say, for example, administrators. If I create a power user and I want to give him full administrative privilege, I will add him to the administrators group. خلاص? The default groups are located in the built-in and user container objects in the Active Directory. The list of predefined groups you see in these containers varies depending on the installed services. Again, we talk about group nesting. We have OU nesting, we have group nesting. Groups are added as members of other groups. Now, this is the group nesting best practice. First, you create a global group in each domain that contain all users needing access to the enterprise database. بعدين create a universal group in the parent domain. Include each location's global group as a member. Then add the universal group to the required domain local group. آخر شيء local group, to assign the necessary permission to access the user and use the enterprise database. يعني بحطهم member بالlocal group, بعدين بحط permission. This is what we will do in the lab later. Special identities. This slide is related to, they exist on all computers running the Windows server. They are not groups because you cannot create them, delete them, or directly modify their membership. Okay? They do not appear as manageable objects in the Active Directory. You can use them like groups by adding them to the access control list of system and network resources. Okay? They are not appearing as manageable. That's why they are called special identities, and we will not use them. If you want to see the properties, you can go to the the creator owner special identity on a security tab. يعني زي هذه creator owner. احنا ما عملنا creator owner. This is by default or special entity. And these are the properties of it. Creator owner. Creator owner هو مالك الدوكيمنت. He can give ownership to another person. يعني when you create a folder, you are the owner of the folder. So you created it and you are owner. So these are some examples of special identities. We have authenticated users. We have creator owner. Please read them. Read them and know the function of each one. You all have exam today. كلكم عندكم امتحان اليوم بالأغلب. مين ما عنده امتحان اليوم؟ مين عنده امتحان؟ الساعة كم؟ 12؟ وين أي غرفة نفس الوقت؟ Okay. So here we talk about authenticated users. Please, you need to know the difference. This is all users with a valid local or domain user account whose identities have been authenticated. It does not include the guest user, create an owner, the account for the user who created or took ownership of a resource. I explained this to you. Dial-up, all users who are currently logged on through a dial-up connection. Type everyone, the authenticated user special identity plus the guest user. نسميها everyone. But not the anonymous log on special identity. Interactive, all users who are currently logged on locally or through a remote desktop connection. Network, all users who are currently logged on through a network connection. You see, we have very specific. The network does not have the remote desktop connections, all right? Or a local. Remote desktop users, when installed in application serving mode, this identity includes any user who are currently logged onto the system using RDS terminal server. You know when we installed Azure, we are connecting RDS. RDS. Any questions? Converting groups. You can change a group from distribution to security or change a group function change. You might need to change a group object from one type to another. You can also change group scope. Global, universal, but of course you have to know why you are doing it. You have to make sure you are not disrupting your performance of the servers, huh? So you have to be very careful about this. You have to plan it before you choose the groups, group type and group scope. How many group types we have? 2. Distribution and security. How many group scopes we have? 3. What are they?
Local and universal and global.
Global. Very good. Domain local group. Domain local group or local domain group, not the normal local. Okay? The exact name, please. Here. Okay, domain local group. To convert a group is easy. We will do the lab, we will show you. It's very simple. You see here, we have here, let me maximize it. This is the group scope. This is how I choose it. Just tick on it, you know. And this is the group type, security or distribution. Most of the time we are working on security groups. Any questions? Deleting a group. If you delete a group, Windows Server will not delete the SID for the group again. Does not use the same SID because the SID is there. Yani, I'll tell you an example. Let's say you have one group called HR. You deleted HR group. That HR, when you created it, it has an SID. You deleted it, then you create the same time again another group called HR. It will have a different SID. Like ID, like each person they have an ID different than others, even if they have the same name. Okay. You want to say something؟ بدك تحكي شيء انت حكيت؟
يعني مسوي ديليت للاس اي دي بكون موجود.
اي نعم موجودة، هاي محتفظة فيها للسكيورتي، موجودة داخل الكمبيوتر always on the server. Okay. Also they will tell you here, even if you create a new group with the same name, you cannot restore the access permissions you assigned to the resource. You must add the newly recreated group as security principal in the resource ACL all over again. When you delete a group, you delete only the group object and the permissions and rights specifying that group as the security principal. Deleting a group does not delete the objects that are members of the group. First of all, let's say I created a group, Shabab. Let's say I named this group HR. And I assigned them permission to use the color printer. Okay. Now I deleted HR group. بعدين رديت عملت again I created HR group. The new HR group will have access to the color printer by default. لا طبعا you have to assign it again.
So user بيكون موجود صح؟ user ما بين
Nothing. You have to add users one more time. One more thing. The HR group, I have some users in it. If I delete HR group, the users are deleted? طبعا لا. Did you hear this again? If I delete a group, the members of the group will not be deleted. صح؟ We did a club, سوينا club. لغينا الكلاب، الأعضاء الكلاب التغوا لا. Of course not. صح؟ By logic. These are sometime coming questions, you know. They will ask. Okay, please read the summary. It says that the simple object type to create in the Active Directory is the OU. We will do this in the lab. OU enables you to decentralize administration model in which others managing portion of the Active Directory hierarchy without affecting the rest of the structure. Groups enable administrator to assign permission to multiple users simultaneously. A group can be defined as a collection of users or computer accounts that function as a security principal in much the same way that a user does. Very good. More. Groups enable administrators to assign permissions to multiple users simultaneously. A group can be defined as a collection of user or computer accounts that function as a security principle. The group nesting, we have already explained group nesting.